Hi all, welcome back to more Labyrinth, playing the extended campaign solo. This is part 15. Right, I don't want to talk about anything, I just want to play the game for a bit. I just came, I had a little bit of a break there, but I want to get some gameplay in. I feel like I'm getting bogged down with things. Right, it's the jihadist player's turn. Yeah, okay, so let's just do it. He's got 3 cards left, I think. Right, Gaza, withdrawal. Right, it's an unassociated event. It doesn't have any reserves. So Gaza withdrawal, Palestinian strip freed of occupation. Palestinian strip freed of occupation. Right, okay. If US play -1 funding, well, it's not going to be. If jihadists place a cell in Israel. And that says place a cell. Yeah, I think the last one did say place a cell as well. However, the last time we didn't have a cell to place. I want to say it was the United Kingdom. Place a cell in the United Kingdom. No, yeah. Well, that failed and just became an unplayable event. And then we had the one with between Iraq and Iran. Place a cell in Iraq and Iran. And that failed as well. That was Al-Anbar, wasn't it? No. Yeah, no, so it was Al-Anbar, but Al-Anbar is just place to sell in Iraq. We couldn't do that either, and again, it's place to sell. The wording is place to sell, because there was no cells on the track. Now this time there is a cell on the track. However, we couldn't recruit this cell because funding's immoderate. However, it's not saying that. So I'm not even going to look here. I'm feeling confident that I can still place that cell. Yeah, you know you're going to go and look, Grant, don't you? Yeah. Okay. So I think we'll want to look at the funding track. There's a bit that talks about the funding. Available cells, only cells in the box, right, are available to be recruited, but we're not talking about recruiting here. Yeah, here we go. Now hold on. Oh no, this is the main rules. It's only if I'm looking at rule 9, that's where I shouldn't be looking. I should then move across to the other book in rule 12. So this is where it's talking about available cells and funding. It says, unless otherwise specified, funding affects cell placement only for recruit operations. Event-driven placement occurs so long as cells remain on the funding track. Also, drops in funding do not affect cells already present in countries. Yeah, it's not that they'll come back. But the important bit there was that event-driven placement occurs so long as cells remain on the funding track. Okay, good. So that does mean we've got one cell. This event is to place a cell in Israel. It's a jihadist. Yeah, it's going to play this. So, card 98. Gaza withdrawal. And what I should have done there was just chuck one into reserves while I remembered. But let's hope that I do remember. So 98, Gaza withdrawal, 2005. Israel's unilateral withdrawal from the Gaza Strip after 38 years of occupation sought to ease the burden on the Israeli Defense Forces, lessen Palestinian attacks on Israeli settlers, and demonstrate a willingness to make concessions in the peace process. But critics feared that jihadism might fill any security vacuum in the strip. Okay, so we play the event to place a cell in Israel. Now, we don't need to test Israel because Israel is permanently hard. So we're going to grab that cell off the track. It's the last cell. And put it in Israel. What else was I thinking about there? Oh, that's it. Place the cell in Israel. Okay. That card gets removed. Well, it's the first play. However, remember, because it was a playable non-US event, we played it. It was unassociated, so we add the card value to the jihadist reserves. So they get one reserve. It's just a one-ops card, right? And that card will be removed and not discarded because they played it for the event. Yeah, that's all we need. Move on to the second card. Right, sanctions. Was that not one of the other ones that were blocking or blocked by or whatever? Anyway, it's a US event, so they're not going to play it. It's only one ops as well, so that's quite nice. Although they've now got one ops in reserve, so they're going to look at a one ops unplayable event. So no, let's see the situation just now. Is jihads possible? Not here. We've got Islamist rule. We can't jihad in here because Benazir Bhutto. Yeah, I've just noticed Tim's brought up a question. Just again regarding the confusion of JSP, which is jihad success possible. I think he talks about Benazir Bhutto, whether he's playing the game himself or whether he's maybe picking up some stuff from my playthrough or not. But he talks about Benazir Bhutto and GTMO as well. I've not quite fully read it and whatever, but he's got one response already from that guy Nico. I think he's out there out and about quite a bit, so he knows his stuff. I think I want to say if it's the same guy that's replied to my stuff before. I haven't really read into it much, but I think Nico's just said GSP means jihad success possible, so you can't do it, so move on. And that's, I'm guessing, I was going to look at his question and start replying to that, but I'm going to leave it to Tim to do that because it's his thread. But jihad success possible, yeah, I mean it does start with that, but then it says that this is true if, and we'll know, if the current awakening reaction marker count is such. So it's not true when you're playing the base game. It's not true until there's reaction markers out there. So, I mean, I get what folk think. There's not a jihad success possible in that country because Benazir Bhutto's in play. But I don't know. But I'm glad he's brought that up because that might, hopefully, I don't know, we need a bit more. Like I say, I've not fully read the comment that he's made, so I'll come back to that. I just wanted to get a bit gameplay. It just came up just now, and I wanted to get a bit gameplay. Right, so what we do? Yeah, we're looking at see on the flowchart, Grant. So we can't jihad there. I'm assuming you can't jihad in Iran. Yeah, I mean it needs to be shifting. Needs to be worsening the governance and target. Does it say not Iran? Yeah, jihad. Muslim countries not Iran containing cells and not under Islamist rule. For a major jihad, it doesn't say not Iran there. I know Iran changes up once we get into the next era, the awakening, but that's not here yet. Yeah, like I say, it doesn't target non-Islamist rule Muslim country with 5 more cells and troops. It doesn't say not Iran there, but the purpose is to turn it from poor to Islamist rule, and it's not poor, it's fair. I think that's covered by that, isn't it? Yeah, it needs to move to poor, and Iran we can't carry out a jihad in there, which is what would move it to poor. Right, okay. Let's forget about Iran. And then Iraq, they've only got one cell to the 6 troops, so no jihad there. Right, so moving on. No major jihad success possible. Funding tight, no. Funding's moderate now, though, so no. Selling good or fair Muslim jihad success possible. Again, see, this one's... This one's kind of clearer, you feel like. I mean, again, it's got GSP, and we look down here, and then we see, right, there's no reaction markers, so is there a cell in a good or fair Muslim country? And there is, Pakistan. And then we move to minor jihad, but it clearly can't do minor jihad. So I feel like this one's okay, but again, it's still... you've got to override some of the wording down here and this to keep it working. Okay, moving on. We're saying no. Poor Muslim wanting 4 more cells than no. Funding moderate, right? Yeah, funding is moderate this time. Okay, so where are we going now? So yes, is prestige greater than 1? An active cell with troops. Well, prestige is indeed greater than 1. It's at 11. Right, I'm a little unsure what's going on here. Active cell with troops, there's not. That's a sleeper cell with troops. I mean, these are counted as 2 troops. We have no troops elsewhere. So the answer to that's no. Just glancing. Right, I'm not going to look yet. I'm just going to move on. I would plot. Yeah, and the reason it needs prestige to be over 1 is because I think when a plot goes off, it lowers prestige, doesn't it? I think that's what happens. Anyway, that's a no. Is there a cell available? No. Is there a cell in a non-Muslim country? Iran is classed as Muslim, eh? I think we decided that was the case. Iran, special case. Well, I think I think I looked at this already because I called it because it stopped at the fair Muslim. I mean, I'm pretty sure it is. Muslim, Shia-dominated Iran is a separate type of country. Right, hold on here then. Don't tell me you're going to reverse this again, Grant. I should have looked. I mean, here's Iran special case. Man, I did say special case. Why did I not go and look more into that then? Because it says here, religion. All countries are marked for the degree and nature of Muslim affiliation. Sunni and Shia mixed countries together are called Muslim in the game. Non-Muslim countries are those in which Muslims are in the minority. Shia-dominated Iran is a separate type of country. In game terms, neither Shia mix nor Muslim. So Iran is not a Muslim country. Man. Okay. Grant backtracks again. What a mess. So when we were wanting to look at whether this cell got placed in Iraq or Iran, and this is way back on, it's the card's up there because it was removed. Ansar al-Islam, play if Iraq's governance is worse than good, and it is and it was. place a sale in Iraq or Iran, and I was trying to decide between the two, and I've been at this for some time now. So it's been I put in Iran at first because I randomised it. Then I put in Iraq because I didn't look at this, and I just went right down the recruit travel to priorities and came to highest resource. No, I didn't. I came to poor, then fair, then good. Iraq was poor, Iran's fair, I put it in there. I then realised that I hadn't come here, so I went back here, says that, no, doesn't apply. That doesn't apply. I also went back and thought that applied. However, this is not a recruit operation, it's place a sell. That doesn't apply. And then I came to this fair Muslim. Forget about the best jihadist DRM. Fair Muslim. And I thought, Iran, okay, Iran's fair too. Now I found out Iran's not a Muslim country, so that doesn't apply. Then non-Muslim, well, Iraq and Iran. Well, hang on, Iran's non-Muslim. Or is it? Shia-dominated Iran is a separate type of country. In game terms, it's neither Shia mix nor Muslim. Does that mean it's non-Muslim? Non-Muslim countries are those in which Muslims are in the minority, 4.3. And then it lists non-Muslim countries here. Non-Muslim countries show permanent governance of either good one or fair two. Well, to be honest, Iran does. Hold on. Well, no, it's carrying on there. Non-Muslim countries except the United States and Iran. Well, that must mean it's a non-Muslim country, Grant. Okay. That proves that they are. So, in actual fact, we are leaving it in Iran then, because it's not going to stop there, but it is going to go non-Muslim. And Iraq is Muslim, and Iran is not. Based on these... Yeah, so, okay. I'm moving on. Right, forget that. Right, where were we then? So we've got a 1-op US card that we can't play. Where were we? Prestige lesson 1. An active cell with troops. No. Is there cell available? No. Cell and non-Muslim. Right. Well, there is in Iran and Israel. That's it. Just looking back on that. Yeah. Just to that sentence there. Non-Muslim countries except the United States and Iran. They have marker boxes for posture, etc. So that means that United States and Iran are non-Muslim countries in the game, yeah? Okay. So, is there a cell in a non-Muslim country? Yes. Good plot. Right, hang on. Right, so we're going to plot, aren't we? Sorry, I was away there. Dragged away. Cell in non-Muslim. Israel. Iran. Yes. Plot. Okay, so then do we cut on? Right, hang on. Well, we've not done plot. Plot over here. There's a... Again, yeah, let's just assume you go to this and then you go down to priorities, Grant. Makes sense, doesn't it? So, yeah, if we're plotting, is funding tight? No. So we're looking for poor with troops and active cells. Well, remember, we're in non-Muslim. However, every non-Muslim country apart... Oh, no, that's not true. That's not true. Because Caucasus there, Russia, they're non-Muslim, and they do have a governance level of fair as well, don't they? So Iran, right, okay. So we're looking for poor with troops and active cells. Right, hold on here. Yeah, but this has to be plotted in a cell in a non-Muslim country with a cell, doesn't it? We don't suddenly reset everything and then start looking at other areas. No, that doesn't make sense. They're not going to plot in these countries anyway, Grant. Don't be silly. Right. So a non-Muslim country. Is there a poor non-Muslim country? No. Iran and Israel. That's all we're looking at. Poor with troops and active cells. Right. So no. Fair Muslim. Right. That's not Muslim. Okay. Why would it? Would it still plot there? Yeah. Well, yeah. It would. Yeah. Funded tight. No. Poor. No. Fair Muslim. No. Good Muslim. Remember, even this is good, it's not Muslim, and this is not Muslim. So no non-Muslim, yes. So that's where we stop, and then we come down here and look at the plot table. So the first is plot in the US. No, it's just Israel or Iran. With troops and less prestigious one. There's no troops in either of them. Pakistan, no. Philippines, no. Most active cells, both of them are sleeper cells. Syria, no. Iran. No, Iran's not involved. Oh yeah, no, Iran is involved. But hang on, it's Iran, but only if we're playing with the forever war, and only if it had an arsenal. Right, but that's not the case then. So move on. With aid, none of them have aid. Regime change, no. Highest resource. They don't have a resource. So, no. Next one's Iran. Again, this is where Awakening expansion. Syria with the Forever War expansion. So, right, and then we're going down here. Civil War, that's both the expansions. Neutral. Oh, right, if it's in the neutral... Well, these don't have an alignment. So, no, there's no neutral. Busy's regime, no. Adjacent, good ally. Right, we've got a winner, haven't we? Adjacent good ally. Well, Iran has an adjacent good ally with Afghanistan. I mean, Israel itself is it's not an ally though. Adjacent good ally. Yeah. To be honest, the next box is fair non-Muslim, which would also be Iran. But adjacent good ally. That's good ally and it's adjacent to Iran. So that's where we're going to plot. Yeah. And it's a one ops, however, it's going to use the reserves. Right, not done this in this game anyway. It's been a while since I've done any of this. You probably noticed that. So plot. Where's the thing then? Right, plot. So the purpose is to raise funding, lower prestige, worsen governance, remove aid, change posture, or win via WMD in US. Right. Target a non-Islamist rule countries with cells. Right. So our target is Iran. For each row in a target country, one cell there must go already be active. We've only got one cell, yeah. First plot operation of turn ignores US event. Place card in first plot. This is amended, isn't it? The first plot thing. Jihadist plot. Recruiting and placing cells. Let's just see here. Placing plots. Yeah, that first one I think that's only relevant in the 2-player game, isn't it? Port. If I look in the old, I shouldn't really be looking in the old bot rules, though, should I? Plot. Placing plots. This is old rules though. Places a random plot. Modifies 8.5.2. Modifies 8.5.2. Plot successor event places a random plot marker from available plots. But I think in the new rules it says all available plot markers remain face down, are selected randomly when placed by a plot operation or by an event. When an event instructs to place a plot, to add this plot, selects a country using the plot column. Yeah, we've been through that on the events. If instructed to perform plot but no plot markers are available, well there is. If the number of available ops plus reserves exceeds the number of available plot markers, well, it doesn't exceed the number of available plot markers, but it exceeds the number of cells. Because you need, I need a cell per plot, don't I? Hi all, right, back to continue this, part 15 it is. I got cut off there and then never got back, and I was working all day yesterday, so by the time it by, I just try to pick up on where I am. We're carrying out a one-op operation. Came down to plot, and I think we're going to plot in Iran, but I stopped there with the fact that there is one reserve to use as well. So we would technically want to plot with 2, but you need a cell per plot. I think I was thinking in the end that it would go, the other bit would use for radicalisation, but then I started wondering, would it not plot here and then possibly plot in another country? But I'm not sure if that's how things are worked now. I want to say there might have been some differences between the old bot and the new bot regarding this, because I know when they used to travel, they could travel to different countries, but I think now they just travel to one country, don't they? Tell me if I've got some of this wrong. I might have. I don't want to sort of confuse myself with the older bot rules and the newer ones. And I don't know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that back in that bot rules, you could plot in different countries as well. Then if you're playing as the jihadist player, then I don't think there's nothing to stop you from plotting in different countries, as long as you've got the cells to activate. I don't believe so anyway. I'm going to look a bit more into that. However, I want to squeeze this stuff in here. More stuff to talk about, more things came up, and it's probably going to take me a little bit of time. I'm going to work later, so I'd like to sort of probably just finish this part off, just discussing some things again, trying to get back on track with the game, because it's kind of bogging me down with this situation. But I think I found a solution, and I wish I had took heed of Tim's comment further back, and then I would have been able to take care of this much better, I think. So anyway, a few other things to talk about first, right? Right, me talking about the win conditions. Tim comments, this is in part, I don't know what this is. Is this 11 or something? No, I don't know. I think it's part 11. He says, my understanding is that 9.1 just modifies the standard win conditions. It doesn't completely replace them. So any US auto victory conditions applies other than removing all cells. And he's got an edit here that's checked on BGG, and this is indeed the case. So they win conditions for the US about getting so many good resources. US win, we would need 12 for a 3-deck. So I think that's what we're looking at, or 15 fair and good countries for a US win. So I think the 2 conditions still apply. The only one that doesn't as if we remove all the cells. That doesn't give us a 1. And then the bot has the 3 winning conditions of so many Islamist resources, right? 6. Bearing in mind he's sitting at 3 at the moment, so you can see that you've got to keep your eye on that one. And then what is that? Poor plus Islamic countries, prestige 1, jihadist 1. That's another win condition. And then the third one is a WMD going off in the US, isn't it? So anyway, that's that. So these are still in play. I want to say that didn't seem so clear. However, we'll just leave it at that. I don't want to go deeply into things. Yeah, I don't think it did come across as me too clear in the rules, but however, that might just be me. And then again, same part, you are correct in thinking the homegrown event is unplayable here. 12.4.1, first bullet says, exception, if executing a playable event would have no effect, the event is deemed unplayable. Yeah, there was no cells on the track to place. I knew if I couldn't play a cell, I knew it was unplayable. I think what my thinking was that there was some other, there was some other rule that allowed us to maybe look at cells on the map, but I think that's just been rubbish. I think I was trying to overthink the situation. Right, hang on. Right, this is an important one. This is the one that I've gave a reply. Yes, I think you found my way out, Tim, and you spoke about this before as well. I just never clicked. So let's read this out, and I think I'm going to put this into play. And I'm annoyed, and I actually got up this morning thinking, should I restart the game because of this? Because I don't want to do that. I don't think I should do that. But I think this whole situation's been a bit of a mess. I wish I took heed of Tim's comment way back. And what is well, I'll read his comment here from part 11, 41 minute 35 second mark. And then let me just look at the timestamp actually. Yeah, it's when I'm considering traveling to Pakistan from Iraq. This comes out to be the priority. Now, this is just a general travel operation, which isn't restricted at all here. And I was seriously considering doing it because I thought, well, there's nothing to say that we shouldn't be travelling to Pakistan. However, when you look deeper into it, the reason, and if somebody else can tell me that there's other reasons, well, let's just say the main reason to put cells into the country, and the fact this was prioritised because it was good, is to put cells in there to carry out jihad operations to worsen the governance and even do major jihad from poor to Islamist rule. And you do that with the build up of cells, and that's why they want to travel there. But while Benazir Bhutto is in play, none of that can happen. So there's no point really travelling cells there until that event goes away, and that event could be sitting in play all game. So it's going to completely mess up the bot's thinking. So I kind of wish there was something about this event. Now, I did say that other events could maybe cause trouble with things like this, but this has certainly been a burden that I feel like must have come up before for folk. And maybe there should be an instruction in play that if that's in play, that the bot behaves differently to the fact that that's there, and you do things differently. However, Tim came up with a solution quite some time ago, when he commented that, and right, hang on, this was nothing to do with Benazir Bhutto actually. No, it wasn't. And so maybe I didn't link them together until now when he's commented here again about it. It's when I had GTMO in effect, which said that the bot couldn't carry out recruit operations for the turn. So I went right through the sort of, and then I couldn't recruit. It came to recruit on the flowchart. We cycled through things and it came down to recruit, but I couldn't recruit because GTMO was in effect. So I then looked up the rulebook, and unfortunately I looked at the old rules, and I still think there's something missing from that old rules talking about GTMO and the new one not. I think this is another thing. Tim brought up a question about this as well on BGG, which hasn't really had that much attention, unfortunately, as well. So, and because GTMO is in effect, we can't recruit. So when I looked up their old rulebook, it actually mentions that if GTMO is in effect, you then carry out travel. That's what I done, but that was in the old rules. In the new rules, it doesn't say anything about that. So what Tim said was, you should be following the new rules, and when you get to recruit, you want to recruit, you cannot recruit, so then you've got unused ops, so you carry out radicalisation. And I think he's spot on there. I think that's what should have happened. I mean, unless there was some instruction about GTMO, which I sort of feel like that's a bit of a missed out event. I mean, yeah, I guess you would think the guys would have looked through all that, but I mean, GTMO says you can't recruit, and yet the bot played that event. I don't see why the bot would play that event. I don't think. I mean, the other part of it was to roll in prestige, do a prestige roll, which fair enough, that can really mess up the US player. It could actually go in the US player's benefit though, if you get the right die roll. But anyway, the main part of that card was unable to recruit the rest of the turn, and this happened early in the turn. I think it was the first 2 or 3 cards that he played. So any of the rest of the cards for that turn, he was unable to recruit. I don't think you would play that as a jihadist player. Maybe if it was the last card you were playing, I suppose, for the turn. Yeah, I could see that. But anyway, I just feel like there should be more about that event to do something different with it. However, yeah, so, and this is what Tim said, and I thought, you know what, I think you're right there. But I never really took it on to this, and it's only till now that he said, so this is me wanting to travel in the cells and confused, scratching my head saying, why do you want to travel more cells into there? There's 6 there. You're just going to gather up cells, keep gathering them, and they can't do anything. So he says, this situation is exactly why I think you're supposed to treat GSP as true for Pakistan. Then the flowchart would tell you to conduct a minor jihad, but since you can't, you would perform radicalisation instead. Otherwise, it's just going to keep travelling to Pakistan until all 15 cells are there. There's a solution. So when we come in, is there a cell in good or fair Muslim with, and remember, GSP just talks about the difference between awakening and reaction markers, and it's a bit off-putting that. And if any question that we're putting out there or asking people, they say, well, jihad success isn't possible there because it says GSP, that's jihad success possible, but it's only based on awakening reaction markers. So in actual fact, that I'm here. Selling good or fair Muslim. See that where GSP, that should be scored out while we're playing the base game. It should just be a sell and a good or fair Muslim. Yeah, that's what it should be. And then it would take you to minor jihad. So what Tim's saying is there that when we look at Pakistan is in this situation, and every time I'm coming to here, I'm just moving down saying, well, no, because I can't go there and do minor jihad. So what he's saying is we should go there, try and do a minor jihad. We can't close the event, then come and radicalise. And that radicalisation looks pretty brutal for us. We've not quite carried out yet. I think we've looked at it a few times. This would completely, this works. So we don't even get down to, right now, then we were getting down to recruit, and then I was saying, right, I'm not going to recruit in there, but if I got down to recruit into Pakistan, well, again, I suppose you're not, if I got down to recruit and Pakistan was the priority, there's nothing to stop you from doing that. I mean, there is something stopping you from doing that. And there's actually nothing stopping you from travelling. But you're not going to get to these because the cells are all there. They're waiting to do the jihad. So you're not going to get to there until things change. So it's a way out. It's a way out, or we're just in this loop here that's never going to end. And I'm just going to keep scratching my head. And then, because it's thinking Pakistan as a country to go for, you know, it's a high priority to Pakistan as well because weapons of mass destruction. But while that Benazir Bhutto is in play in there, it's kind of useless to the bot. You know? Okay, excellent, Tim. Thanks for that. We're going to put that into play now. I did think about winding back this part and say what did I do before, because I think I might have. Did I do some travel on this turn? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I've done with the bot. But we're trying to do a plot. I actually think this is. Yeah, they played one card. This card. They played that for the event. Place a sale in Israel, which they did. So, and then we're playing this card. So this is our second card. Well, could I go back and avoid the pot then? I could. Let's do that then. Because that's where I'm at, isn't it? So let's rewind. Let's just start this card play again. Because I come down to plot. We're going to plot in Iran, I think. But let's try and do it. And then I'll get me moving on and see what's what. Okay, a few other things to mention. Right, I don't want to go through all of this. This is my question on BGG. Benazir Bhutto in the solo game. I've spoke about it before, but it's all about this, you know. And, at first, Zod was saying you can't jihad in that country, so you don't recruit. You don't stop there and think about it. Tim was on sort of my side of the fence with it, saying that it doesn't really stop you from that because talking about best jihad DRM, Zod stuck by that for a while, and then he realised then he came to after a comment I made about best DRM, just talking about awakened reaction markers. He did sort of see that it was an interesting thought. I think he looked at the spirit of the game, understand that, but taking the rule literally would sort of like want you to do things in the country without, this was the last comment that he made. He says, "Hi Grant, the text of an event takes precedence over the general rules for as long as the effect persists. And no jihad there effect makes an attempt at jihad in that country illegal until the event is blocked, retired, preventing both major and minor jihad locally." Yeah, I mean, I get that, and then he quotes the rule, whenever event text conflicts with game rules, the event governs, follow the event text instead of any conflicting rules. The event says there's no jihads allowed in that country. I get that. I'm not denying that. And then my reply to him is, yes, I understand all this. However, I still don't feel that GSP, and I know we're going over and over this, jihad success possible. This is true if the current awakening reaction marker count is such that any future jihad roll there would succeed in the marker count if the marker count did not change. There's no awakening reaction markers there, so GSP should be ignored. DRM, net diral modifiers, 11.1.3. If you look up that in the rulebook, it talks about awakening reaction markers. So both of them are not saying do a jihad in that country. They're not saying that. So, it's sort of, yeah. I think Tim's way about this is going to be the way forward for me. Right, and then, okay, let me just, so yeah, this is a post that Tim put up, question, and this is on the Labyrinth Awakening site. I don't know if it's regarding Awakening because it's talking about Awakening reaction markers, but I sometimes feel like they might be best posted on the main site. I don't know. To be honest, I'm not getting a lot of activity there either, so it's maybe better, sticking with it so it makes sense to whatever version of the game you're playing. So anyway, he says, situation, base game, using the Awakening Jihadist bot. Now, I don't know if this is taking some of my playthrough into this, or if he's playing the game himself. It just seems coincidental that Benazir Bhutto is in play. But anyway, base game using the Awakening Jihadist bot. Pakistan is a fair country with 5 cells. Benazir Bhutto is in play. I come to this box in the flow chart. Cell in good or fair Muslim where GSP. I mean, I think this is him just going to go through and talk about just what I've just talked about. So he comes to that. According to answers I've found in earlier posts from Adam Zam, who I think is a bot designer. So Adam says, GSP applies only to awakening and is in reference to the net awakening and reaction marker status. So that's what he's saying. GSP is only interested in awakening markers. We're not playing with any at the moment. We're playing the base game. So, and then another quote by Adam. So in the base game, if there is a poor country with 1 to 4 more cells than troops, answer yes. Yeah, so in the base game, what he's saying, if there's a poor Muslim country with 1 to 4 more cells than troops, that where GSP, ignore that in the base game. He's basically saying that. If there's a poor country with 1 to 4 more cells than troops, the answer is yes. You know, and the answer is yes here as well. So, and then Tim carries on. So it seems to me that you ignore events in play that block a particular operation, i.e. Benazir Bhutto preventing jihad and GTMO preventing recruit, when following the flowchart to determine which operation to perform. In that case, wouldn't I answer yes to sell in good or fair Muslim GSP? Yes. And then attempt to conduct minor jihad, but then since I cannot, do radicalisation instead. And I'd love somebody to come along with some authority and answer that question, just to make sure. But it sounds to me like Tim's got that. That sounds like the way I'm going to play it. So it was Nico that answered, I've seen him around quite a lot, is the German guy, who came and answered, and unfortunately, yeah, folks seem to be a little bit blinkered by right, I'll read his comment. As per page 25, GSP stands for Jihad Success Possible. In your case, success is not possible, so follow the flowchart accordingly. Don't have the flowchart at hand to see what would be the next box. So again, everybody's blinkered by this GSP, meaning Jihad Success Possible. I think the words that they've used in all this is a shame. I think they could have worded it better, because it's just confusing people. I mean, I'm not knocking Nico for saying that. You know, everybody says, you can't do a jihad there. Jihad success is not possible. That's, yeah, you know. Anyway, so Tim replies to that. Yes, but the flowchart defines jihad success possible as, this is true if the current awakening reaction marker count is such that any future jihad role there could succeed if the marker count did not change. Also, it has been confirmed in other posts that GSP does not mean jihad success is currently possible. For example, poor Muslim will want 4 more cells and troops and militia, where GSP is never possible. But it is asking if success is possible if it were allowed to roll for it. In this case, a future role could succeed if Bhutto's shot were played between now and then. Yeah, I mean, it's true. If the 1 to 4 more cells, then this is not doing it, because you need a major jihad to convert from poor to Islamist rule, and to do a major jihad, you need to have 5 more cells and troops. So, and this is confusing itself. It's thrown a lot of people, because they say, well, you can't do a normal jihad in a poor Muslim country either. It's in the rules. So these bits, that's the sort of confusion, and unfortunately, folk are not quite getting this. So Zod replied to this thread, I've already had a discussion with Grant about this issue in another thread, Benazir Bhutto in the solo game. I'm in favour of not reading literally. Bhutto blocks jihad, so prevent GSP. So we have to move on to the next box, like said Nico, in the spirit of the game. Well, I think Tim's look on this is much better. I'm on that side of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to be doing things in Pakistan, but I can do that by just moving on to radicalisation. And just, you know, and radicalisation is going to start messing about, doing lots of other things. Zod carries on, you were on the right track. Bhutto blocks jihad like DMO blocks travel. Well, he's put travel there, that's a it was recruit. I think he realises that later. The difference is 33 Bhutto is removed when 60 Bhutto shot occurs, whereas GTMO is a lapsing event, but both block operation for a while maybe. But it's also a choice. You can play on Pakistan. Literally, it will give a completely different game. We're here to have fun. Yeah, I know, and we're playing a solo game and whatever, but I'm a stickler. I want to be told what the rules are. I don't want to come up with these things by myself. I really would like to see some authority come in and start helping us out here, which would be nice. There's nothing better than having the last game I played, the other side of the hill. The designer followed me all the way through the whole playthrough, 64 parts or something like that. Always there to help with questions, and answered the questions when asked on BGG as well. I know people are busy and what, but yeah, we could do with some sort of answers that yeah. Well, actually, I replied to this in the thread. I says, I think it would be good if we could get an official ruling on this, though. There are many events that have been noted and adjusted within this expansion. Now, it could be that many other events can occur and cause similar issues. I am not that versed with the game as of yet to make that call. Reading through the rules, however, it doesn't come across to me to be a solo game that wants the player to make decisions out with the rules. I like to play solo games with rules that cover everything as best I can. I feel that this is such a game, I don't want to make decisions. Well, I don't want to make decisions for the bot. That's what I probably should have said though. Yeah, I mean, it certainly didn't come across to me as a game that was going to cause this trouble. And I don't think it probably needs to. And I think there's only some certain events that are going to interfere with things like that. But anyway, moving on, Tim replies to Zod. He says, assume you mean GTMO bots recruit, not travel. And he does, yeah. The interesting thing about GTMO is that the base game bot rules explicitly say that the bot will not choose recruit if GTMO is in effect. But in the corresponding section of the Awakening bot rules, Right, sorry, phone call, as you probably heard. Right, that's quite a long phone call as well. Right, I'm talking about Tim's reply here. The interesting thing about GTMO is that the base game bot rules explicitly say that the bot will not choose recruit if GTMO is in effect. But in the corresponding section of the Awakening rules, there is no such stipulation. That's what Tim highlighted to me. To me, this implies that the bot would still choose recruit if that's where the flow chart leads. And then, since GTMO is in effect and it can't recruit, it would perform radicalization instead. I mean, in the old rules it said, if GTMO is in effect and you're trying to recruit, you travel. It doesn't stipulate that in the new rules. Kind of strange that it didn't come... or that there wasn't more on the event description table about it. But anyway, that's what it is. And I like his idea there about as well. And that's the first thing he said to me back when I chose travel. I mean, I was looking at the old rule book, but then Zod realises his error means recruit instead of travel. So Zod finishes off with exact to Tim's response there. That it would perform radicalization instead. He says, exactly, and I think we could have a similar strategy for Bhutto. Since jihad is impossible in Pakistan, that country can't be chosen. So it sounds like Zod's on them, on board there with that last comment, and he's saying that, yeah, you try to do jihad in Pakistan, you come to minor jihad here, and you sort of say, or even if it was poor, you're here, major jihad, yes, you can't do it because of Bhutto. So, and then you radicalise. I like it. Right, almost done in it. I'm just going to wrap this part up and start again. So I've got two other, I talked about the Banners or Bhutto. Right, the last thing then is the other question that I'd posted a bit back about placing a cell in solo play. That's the title of the question. And it's regarding Ansar al-Islam, which says to place a cell in Iraq or Iran. Right? I says, will the bot choose between Iraq and Iran randomly, or does it take something else into consideration first? Right, this cell's bounced back and forth all over the place. So at first Zod highlights the rule 12.3.2 regarding when an event instructs to recruit. But I want to fully read this and understand this. 12.3.2 and get the exact wording, because this is interesting, I think. So 12.3.2, I don't think we need the bit that goes on to the next page. I think it's talking about cells. It's about plots, sorry. So recruiting or placing sales, but let's look at the word in here. When an event instructs to recruit, place, or replace sales or cadres, the jihadist bot uses, and this is an important bit, the recruit and travel to priorities of the operations priorities OP flow chart to select the country. Right, let's be clear on what that exactly is. So I'm bringing up here, now this is the operations priority OP flow chart. So it says it uses the recruit and travel to priorities, which, see, this is where the confusion is. Does it mean there? I mean, it says the recruit and travel to priorities of the operations priorities flowchart. That's clearly the flowchart, and it uses the recruit and travel to priorities. So is that these? See, I mean, that's what it thinks. However, it could get you thinking about down here. Now, the difference in the word in here is priorities table. And it doesn't mention the word table there, does it? No, it does not. So it sort of does make you feel, and remember, we are looking to place a sale, and remember, we use this recruit and travel to priorities when we're trying to decide between Iraq and Iran. So, yeah, let's not go deeper more into it. Let's carry on. So at first, Zod has said that he quotes that and he says, it took me a while to understand that this means play as an operation and look at the OP flow chart. I think you have to start with the first box of recruit and travel to and then follow the flow chart. Well, he's thinking that way at first. And if you have to, you go to the priorities table to select Iran or Iraq. That's how I play it. Well, it sounds like you had it there, Zod, and then you must have changed your mind. So he's talking about coming here, going through these, ending on one of these, and if you've still end on one of these and not made your, if you've not found Iraq or Iran, you then come to this and you go through these priorities here. Okay, and I think that is the way you do it. He finished there with, no, I'm using bot from Awakening. Yeah, I am as well. And then, yeah, I think he's spot on. That's what I say. I eventually come across that. So, yeah. And, yeah, then Tim chimes in here. He says, another nuance that I just thought of regarding this. If you're placing or replacing sales or cadres, do you follow the OP flow chart as if you're recruiting? I.e., would the second box apply if recruit or recruit best you had DRM? I'm thinking yes. So, Tim's saying, I don't know about this one. I don't. And if we are, or whenever we're looking at this flowchart, and if this is the right way to start carrying out this procedure about place a sale in Iraq or Iran, because I looked at this and automatically, at first thought, well, Iraq is a auto-recruit country and Iran is not. And I think that's one of the times I decided the sale was going to Iraq. And then I came back and I said, wait, now, this isn't a recruit. It says if recruit. Now, we're placing a sale. Tim seems to think that it would still apply and the same thing. I really don't know. Me thinking literally it doesn't use the words, it uses the word recruit, which is a different thing. So I would say no, and then that's why I then move on to good Muslim and end up at fair Muslim and what Iran is, and that's why the sale's there at the moment. However, if you just move straight to here, which is what I initially done, you end up with that one, which is poor, then fair, then good. So poor, then fair, so it goes in Iraq. And and I bring up more about this. Sorry, this is long-winded and whatever, and I'm sure I want you to switch off after so far with this. Maybe the couple of guys that are involved here, if they're watching it, I don't know if Zod's following along or not. And clearly Tim is, because he's making comments on the actual video. So, it's probably only aimed at them. But we want other people to watch this and tell us, try and get this right for us, So Zod replies to Tim here, in my humble opinion, if we're talking specifically about 50 Ansar al-Islam, then since two countries are specified in an event, in this case Iraq and Iran, we need to go straight to the priorities table. Yeah, this is when he sways to that, but then he is talking because this is just a specific event. And I tended to start agreeing with him here, because thinking that we don't need to look here because we know it's Iraq or Iran. But however, you can go through this and find Iran there. You know, or you could find Iraq if Iran wasn't fair. You know, if it wasn't fair Muslim, you could go to there. Let's just say they were both poor. You could go around here. Or let's just say they were both fair. You could end there and then move down to there. So, but I did start thinking that this sounds right, that we should just directly go to the priorities table. I don't think that is right though. Now, although I agreed that I felt like he was right. So he says, line 20 determines the country selected, explained by Grant, poor then fair then good. We don't pass op-p boxes. It's when we use the EV flowchart that we designate an operation, which sends us to the op-p, which sends us to the priorities table if necessary. So that's how his thinking of that. But when you read that, there's no mention of a priorities table. You know, that does seem to be the actual flowchart that you look at first. So, I commented here, and this is where I think I agree with him, but I've since reconsidered that. Hi guys, I've changed the placement of the cell so many times that it must be dizzy. The thing is, I am still unsure of how I should be selecting its placement. And I was. I've just uploaded part 11 on my playthrough, and around the 33-minute mark I decide it's going in Iraq by the following recruit priorities table. By following the recruit priorities table. And it's going in, what, Iraq? Yeah, because I decide to come straight here instead of going here. Because you get a different result. If you go here, you get Iran. If you go here, you get Iraq. Which is kind of strange in itself, and it brings me to something else that I talk about. Later in the playthrough, however, I then decide that I should follow the recruit flowchart first, but I skip the auto recruit box, which is what Tim was talking about. I skip the auto recruit box. Where are we? As my thinking was, it's not a recruit but a placement. Now this could be wrong also, I said. And ended up with non-Muslim, so put the cell back in Iran. So I ended up with not that, non-Muslim. Yeah, at first I say fair Muslim. I've got that wrong. It's not fair Muslim because Iran's not classed as a Muslim country. It's non-Muslim. So that's where it comes to that. And Iraq, that makes Iran over Iraq, yeah? I think she's maybe stopped. So... And then this is where I agree with Zod. I do, however, think Zod is right here, and we should just look straight to the recruit priorities table. Well, I don't think that is right, and I think Zod actually understands that he's been getting that wrong too. I say, although if you were asked by an event to recruit somewhere, then surely you would have to start with a flowchart. You know, if you were just asked to recruit and you didn't have a choice between Iraq or Iran, you've surely got to start here. But how does that make that different? It doesn't, because like I've just said, if we start there with Iraq and Iran, we end up with Iran. If we start there with Iraq and Iran, we end up with Iraq. So you do need to know which one you're wanting to do. And then I quote the rule 12.32. It does, and then I say it doesn't really differentiate between recruit or place. So maybe not. I mean, it doesn't sort of say, you know, it says recruit, place, or replace cells. It doesn't differentiate between the two. So why should you look here for one and then look here for another? That doesn't really make sense, doesn't it? And I say, interestingly, following the recruit priorities table brings you to poor. Recruits priorities table. This one brings you to poor, then fair, then good, right? But if you follow this, you go good, then fair, then poor, which I sort of found kind of strange. I thought, I mean, this is recruit and travel. This is recruit and travel. Yeah, that one's going poor, then fair, then good, and yeah, the flowchart takes you good, then fair, then poor, which I think is why is that? Anyway, Zod replies to this. in my opinion, when you have to go through the priorities table, it's to eliminate the choices and take most profitable one for the bot. Poor is easier for the Dyro, for example. When you go through the flowchart, the bot plays a new strategy. Good is first, only because the bot must prevent the proliferation of good countries, which will then lead to minor jihad blocks. This is a more global long-term strategy. Two approaches for two different tables. This is not a mistake, he says. Having said that, he's not the inventor of their bot, blah, blah, blah. So sorry, I should read that. Having said that, I'm not the inventor of the bot. I'm just trying to understand the algorithm in obscure situations not explicitly described in the rules. If anyone has an electronic version of this game, could they give us some hits on how to solve the problem? Coders have surely solved these details with a more advanced decision tree. Yeah, I'd love to go back and try and play this game out again using that app, for instance. Although, like I say, I tried it and it came up with a strange travel to Russia, which I don't know if it was me making a mistake or maybe I made a mistake in the game early on. Anyway, I followed up. But if an operation results in recruit, we then check the flowchart and look at good before fair before poor. Yet if we place a cell or recruit via an event, we look at poor before fair then good. So there's something, aren't they trying to do the same thing? There's something wrong there, isn't there? Now let's say this is when, I think Tim had replied to this, I haven't refreshed. Almost there, sorry. Yeah, Tim says, the rule says to use the op flowchart when recruiting, placing or replacing via event. You would only resort to the priorities table if you ended up with multiple possible locations from the box that ended up applying in the flowchart. The only thing that's not clear is whether you still consider the second box if recruit when placing or replacing. Or does he mean if recruit or recruit? Yeah, that's what he's saying. If you're just doing a place action, do you consider that box? I sort of feel no, but I could see it being, yeah, you do. But that needs to be written in the rule somewhere, you know? That needs to be somewhere. So, yeah, and it does say it there that you use the flowchart and then end up going down there. Now, I will say that you would only resort to the priorities table if you ended up with multiple possible locations from the box. Well, we're starting with multiple possible locations, Iraq or Iran, which is multiple possible locations. I think it's only fair to go through this first. And I think Zod realises this. He says, I'd been wrong all along, by Jove. So this is how I should read 12.3.2, my rewording in bold. I mean, basically, he's quoting the event, but highlighting in bold, uses op, flowchart, recruit, and travel to, which starts here. This is the op P flowchart, and that's a recruit and travel to. It's easier for me to read it this way. I misinterpreted the rule as written because the word priorities made me think of priorities table. And yeah, it is slightly confusing, you know, because this has got priorities, this is priorities, right? But from now on, we're going to do this. We're going to go through this. Then if we've not found one result, can't break it down, we're going to then break it down going down there. Okay. Right, I think I'm done. Right, sorry for all that. It's terribly long-winded. Right, I'm going to cut this part and I know I'm still in the process of doing this, but the video's got too long. I'm going to come back because I've still got a little bit of time and we're going to start doing a one-op and we're going to start from scratch with that one-op sanctions card which isn't playable. I'll be back shortly. Cheers.